The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome in, wrestling fans. You are now dialed in to the PA Power College Podcast. As Jason Bryant of the Mat Talk Podcast Network said, I'm Tristan Warner, joined by my main man as always, Mason Beckman, aka Beck Diggity. Mason, we're here to run through our NCAA Division I National Championship preview. It's hard to believe we're here already.
Here we are, man. It's been a fun season. A lot of really fun storylines that we've talked about all year long. But this week, the mecca of folk style wrestling, of college wrestling, is finally upon us. The 330 best guys in America descend, this year upon Cleveland, and for 3 days, you basically have nonstop fireworks. So I'm excited. I think I speak for pretty much the entire wrestling world when I say I'm excited to see the way everything plays out. And there's so many great matchups, so many, all 10 weights are so deep, but, there's a few specific ones that are going to be absolute bonkers. So, it's almost to the point that, the talking is done and we actually get to see what happens.
Yeah, and for the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're still going to talk a lot nonetheless. Keeping in mind that this is the PA Power College Podcast, we want to run through each weight. We want to talk about all the Pennsylvania natives. There's 53 of them, by the way. That's almost double the second most of any other state. I think, Ohio had about 30. So PA comes in with 53 qualifiers. So we'll run through each weight class, talk about who the Pennsylvania guys have at each weight, talk about their roads to, the podium. And then we want to go through and we'll list some of our dark horses for each weight, on a nationwide scale, not just from Pennsylvania. Talk about some of the more intriguing matchups of the first round, and then Mason and I will pick our finals and champion predictions.
So, right out of the chute, 125, here we go. Your top 8 seeds: Darian Cruz in the 1, Nathan Tomasello 2, Spencer Lee 3, Soriano 4, Sean Foz 5, Piccinini 6, Taylor Lamont 7, and Ethan Lezak 8. So your Pennsylvania natives in 125 are Darian Cruz, Ethan Lezak, Zeke Moisey, Spencer Lee, and Gage Curry. Those first round matchups that those guys have: Cruz draws Foley from Michigan State, Lezak's got McGee from Missouri, Moisey's got Nordstrom from Virginia Tech, Spencer Lee has Mendez from the winner of Mendez from Cal State Bakersfield and Allen from Tennessee Chattanooga. Gage Curry draws number 11, Sean Russell from Edinburgh. So, Tristan, I'll let you lead it off here, 25. Give us your thoughts, give us your dark horse, and your most intriguing first-round match.
Probably the thing I'm most excited about here at this weight class, and this is just beating a dead horse at this point. I've said it so many times, but Zeke is back. 2 years ago, I'll never forget it. Zeke's was it 3 years ago now, I guess. It was my senior year, so 3 years ago. Zeke's improbable but amazing NCAA finals run. He's back this year. I'm not sure that he's 100%, but he's at least healthy, healthier than he was after missing a season. He's a number 13 seed, so when I compiled this list of my dark horses, I said they couldn't be a top 12 seed, so naturally Zeke at 13, he's my dark horse for the weight class. He's got Nordstrom from Virginia Tech out of the gate. I think that's a winnable match. He's going to run into a buzzsaw in Suriano in the second round, but going through the bracket, just kind of estimating through the constellations, I do think he has a decent road, a decent shot to try to get on the podium, again, for the second time in his career. Aside from that, a couple intriguing matchups of the first round that I saw. Right up at the top of the bracket, Jay Schwarm from Northern Iowa against Drew Matton from Michigan. That's one of those matches where Drew Matton from Michigan is a guy that's been ranked in the top 10 for some good part of the end of the year. I think he's peaked as high as number 9, but he's a guy that didn't get seeded. So he comes in, if you look at the bracket, against a 16 seed, but that's easily on paper, I guess you'd call that an upset, but not really because Matton's ranked so high. Thought that was a good first round matchup. as well as number 5 seed Sean Faust from NC State draws Old Dominion boy Mikael McGee, who true freshman, having quite a season. He's been in the top 20 most of the year. He's pretty explosive, pretty darn good on top. So not saying that he's necessarily going to pick fouls off in the first round, but we always do see some crazy upsets in the first round, and that's definitely a guy that I wouldn't want to draw in the first round if I'm a 5 seed.
So, for me, as far as a dark horse goes, there's a few different guys in here. I think Barlow McGee out of Mizzou can cause a lot of problems. I think that first round matchup with him and Lezak is one of my most intriguing ones because McGee's a guy that's really explosive, can hit you and take you off your feet. And I realize it's a 2-hour weigh-in, but he's still going to catch Lezak coming off a scale, which, as we know from past experiences, isn't always Lezak's best round. Last year, first round, Lezak built a lead and hung on late to win. So that's one that I think McGee could be a dark horse, as well as, that's a really interesting first round match. Other potential dark horses, Drew Matten, Jay Schwarm is one that you kind of covered all bases there. It would be on an upset on paper, but in reality, probably not. I think either one of those guys could cause problems for a lot of people. I think whoever wins that, they're both pretty good, but we've seen both of them wrestle Darian Cruz, and neither match went well for those guys. So I think they'll win that first one, lose to Toy, and then have to battle that out on the backside. The other guy I think that's a huge dark horse is Ryan Milhoff coming out of the 15. This is a guy that's a returning All-American that is really good in all three positions. He's kind of got a little bit of the freak gene in him. He's super powerful. A second-round match with Nathan Tomasello doesn't necessarily bode well, but I absolutely think Ryan Milhoff is a guy that can cause a lot of people in this weight a lot of problems. So, and in the storyline in general, what?
I was just going to say, Mason, I also got to ask, number 9 seed, Ronnie Rios from Oregon State. Is he Ronnie Bresser or Ronnie Rios? Every time I see this guy's name in a bracket, it's different.
I don't know. It's kind of like the kid from Rutgers that randomly changed his name to some ridiculous German thing.
Van Schenkbrill.
Yeah, I don't know if it's German. It's just the first thing that came to mind. But I don't have a clue. I think it's maybe a hyphenated last name or a middle name, or I don't know. But yeah, the weight as a whole, I think everybody looking at this wishes we could kind of fast forward to the semis and see the 1 through 4 seeds and how it plays out in the end. You've got 2 undefeated guys on the top half in Cruz and Soriano. Bottom half, likely to see a Spencer Lee, Nathan Tomasello rubber match. Tomasello is a guy that won a title as a freshman and has lost in the semis the last 2 years. So does that continue? We don't know. He lost to an Iowa guy. Actually, he's lost to an Iowa guy both times in the semis. So that bodes well for Spencer.
This is a pretty ridiculous weight to pick. I was just going to say, go ahead with your prediction.
As far as my prediction goes,
you can't go wrong with any of these guys.
No, you really can't. And everybody knows who I'm going to pick to win the thing. So I'm going Darian off the top side. I'm going Spencer off the bottom side, and I'll go Darian over Spencer in the finals.
All PA final. I like that.
Can't beat it, right?
Like I said, I feel like you really can't beat any 4 of these guys. Any combination of them, literally any 4 of them could win. Any 4 of them could be in the finals. Man, I'll play devil's advocate, I guess, just to take a different side here. I'll go. Although, question real quick before I even make this pick: is Soriano healthy?
I don't have a clue.
I don't either. I see him injury default at Big Tens. That's why I asked.
No, I don't know.
All right. Well, I mean, my heart's rooting for Darian and Spencer, but to play devil's advocate here, I'm going to go Soriano Tomasello final, and I'm going to say Tomasello gets back on top of the podium to get that elusive second title after getting it as a freshman.
I think that's a fair assessment of things. The 3 hardest weights to pick without question, 57 is a train wreck now, but we'll talk about that. But the 3 hardest weights to pick have been all year, been 25, 41, and 97 has turned into a disaster as well.
A good disaster, a fun disaster, I would say.
A beautiful disaster. So 33, the weight that I personally enjoy the most. just because I wrestled some of these guys.
But you weigh nowhere close to that now.
No, I'm probably about 55 right now.
Just had to throw that out there for the fans. Go ahead.
50, 55, 60, somewhere in there. Anyway, PA natives at 133. We got 6 of them. Number 3, Luke Pletcher, who opens up with Pengili of Stanford. Number 14, Corbin Myers out of Edinburgh, who wrestles Scott Del Vecchio out of Rutgers. Number 11, Dom Fories from Pitt. He wrestles Corey Keener from Penn State. 2 Pennsylvania natives, 4 Pennsylvania schools going at it there. Number 6, Scotty Parker from Lehigh gets the winner Cam Kelly out of Ohio and Cam Sikora from North Dakota State. Number 7, Austin DeSanto, Drexel. He wrestles Muldoon from SIUE. This weight here, most intriguing first-round matchup to me is Tariq Wilson out of NC State, number 5, John Ernesti out of Mizzou. Ernesti's pretty good, but Mizzou's wrestled a funky schedule. They wrestled a lot of great duels, and they wrestled out in Reno. But we haven't seen a ton of, they didn't go to Scuffle. They didn't go to Midlands. The MAC, no offense, it's not the Big Ten, right? So it's not like they have exposure to Penn State, Ohio State, or even a Cornell and a Lehigh. They did wrestle some great duels, but we didn't see a lot of marquee matchups with their guys at the conference tournament. So Mizzou has a lot of high seeds that a lot of people don't know what to think of. Tariq Wilson, on the other hand, is a kid that for NC State has had some big wins. I know he's got one over Jack Mueller just off the top of my head. The top 4 guys in that weight in the ACC were all really good, with Mueller, Gustafson, Fories, and Tariq. So I think that's your most intriguing matchup in the first round. Dark horse, I am going to go with, I'll go Scott Del Vecchio. As somebody, he's somebody that I've wrestled. I know how tough that kid is. And he doesn't do anything that's going to wow you, but he doesn't really have a hole. The kid wrestles really hard. He does a lot of things very, very well. He's very fundamental. And he's just a tough kid. So he's somebody that ends up on the backside and, maybe can get guys to crack and can wrestle a hard 7 minutes. I can see Scott Del Vecchio causing some problems. So what do you got?
Yeah, I think we're kind of on the same page here. Some interesting things to point out. We got an all-PA first-round matchup in Fories from Pitt and Keener from Penn State. And then right below them in the same 16th of the bracket, if you will, 6 seed Scott Parker from Lehigh. So assuming Parker wins, he's going to get a PA guy in the next round in Fories and Keener. And, so we have a likely, I would say, all-PA matchup there in the round of 16. It's like they threw all the PA guys right there in the same spot of the bracket. For Dark Horse, I picked Chaz Tucker from Cornell. He's got a matchup, which is also one of my intriguing matchups of the first round, against number 9 seed, who's now an ACC champ, Dennis Gustafson. So that's a really intriguing matchup. I also see Tucker as being a dark horse. I could see him pulling that upset, especially after just picking up a win over DeSanto last weekend. Other interesting first-round matchup I had was what you said, Scott Del Vecchio against number 14, Corbin Myers. I could really see that one going either way. Go ahead with your prediction, Mason.
Prediction, I'm going Gross Mičić for the final, and I'm going Mičić to win just for some strange gut feeling.
I'm going with the exact same thing.
Really? Yeah, Mičić, man, the way he's been wrestling lately, it's amazing.
Pretty scary good.
Yeah, he's been just lighting people up. I mean, Luke Pletcher doesn't give up points, and Mičić blew him out both of the last 2 times. And he's got a really unique style, and I don't know, I just have a gut feeling about this one, which I could be dead wrong. But both of these guys are extremely good, and Gross kind of controlled that match in the All-Star. He didn't kind of control that match. He did control that match in the All-Star duel. So that's my pick. And then just to go back to 25, because I guess neither one of us really elaborated on our picks. You kind of did. I didn't. The reason I'm going Darian over Spencer in the finals, speaking from personal experience, Darian presents people with problems that almost nobody else can from an athletic standpoint. When you have a guy that can change speeds, that can, level change and change speeds, can attack both legs, high and low. He's really creative with some of the things he does in front headlocks and the tie-ups. He's a really unique guy to wrestle, and wrestling him the first time a lot of times can be really difficult. And Spencer does a lot of things incredibly well. Obviously, the kid's amazing. The one, I don't say hole, but if you're nitpicking, right? I don't think Spencer laterally moves as well as some other guys at that weight, and maybe the knee brace is part of it. I don't know, but I think Darian would be able to get him moving laterally and make it kind of a track meet, if that makes sense. Make it a situation where Spencer really has to try to stay square with him and operate in space, which is not what he wants to do. So that's kind of where that pick in my mind came from. And let's all be honest here, I'm obviously biased.
Yeah. I'll be definitely rooting for Darian and for Lee out there, so I hope you're right. And also, I'll say at 125, the last 3 or 4 years, Bethlehem Catholic kids just have a thing for knocking off guys from Iowa, whether they're from there or not. They have a thing for knocking off the Hawks.
Yeah, hey, so, if it keeps rocking and rolling and Darian wins the national title, I'm about it.
Yeah. All right, let's go up to 41.
All right, I'll let you run through this one.
All right, so 141, we got 8 Pennsylvania guys. I think that might be the most of any weight. That's a tie with 157 that also has 8. So running through this real quick, we got Kyle Shoup from Lock Haven. He's got Vince Turk from Iowa and a pigtail up top. Ryan Deal, who really is a West Virginia kid, but moved to Trinity in District 3, Pennsylvania, midway through his high school career. He's got number 8 seed Nick Lee from Penn State. You got number 12 seed Tyler Smitty from Franklin Regional kid for Bucknell. He's got Brent Moore from Virginia Tech. Number 13 seed Luke Karam from Lehigh's got Tion Anthony from George Mason in the first round. You got Nick Zanetta from Pitt. Got a pretty tough draw with number 3 seed true super freshman Yanni Diakmahalis, or however you pronounce that last name.
You're right.
Kid's a stud. I just can't say his name. Number 11 seed Mike Carr, the Big Ten runner-up for Illinois. He's got Henry Pohlmeyer from South Dakota State. Here's an intriguing matchup. Number 7 Brock Zacharel from Clarion's got scary, talented freshman Chad Redd from Nebraska, who's been a little inconsistent this year, but talented nonetheless. And lastly, one of my favorite Twitter follower guys here, AC Headley for UNC against number 2 Jaden Ironman from Missouri.
Right, so this is probably my favorite weight of the entire tournament. There are like 7 dudes that could win this thing. Obviously, you've got Meredith, Ironman, Diakmahalis, McKenna, Kevin Jack, and Dean Heil as the 6 horses, so to speak, that people are really picking between to win the weight. First round matchups, there's a lot of interesting ones, but you kind of stole the one I was going to talk about with Zacharel and Chad Redd. When Chad Redd's on, he's all the way on. Sometimes he's all the way off too, so you don't really know what you're getting there. But in that same 16th, if we're going to go back to what you said, Tommy Thorne and Mason Smith is another one that's super interesting. Tommy Thorne, a returning All-American. Mason Smith, a guy that was ranked super high at one point, might have been as high as 2 or 3, and he's now the 10. I think he dealt with a little bit of an injury bug. So I'll go my most interesting matchup is Zacharel Redd. My dark horse is Tommy Thorne, which is kind of weird to talk about a returning All-American as a dark horse. Finals picks. I'll go Meredith over Diakmahalis.
Interesting pick. My dark horse, went a little bias here. I pulled a page out of Mason Beckman's playbook here. Taking Alex Madrigal from Old Dominion. No one really jumped out to me as necessarily a guaranteed dark horse, but Madrigal runs into McKenna in the first round. I don't like that, but then I looked through his next few rounds of consolations and definitely winnable matches for him. He's a guy that's been ranked in the top 15 most of the year. He's really good on top, good tilts. He's got a ridiculous grip for now a 41-pounder, coming up a weight from last year. So, I don't know. Shot out of the cannon there with Madrigal as a dark horse. We pretty much covered the interesting matchups there. My finals prediction, this weight I would say is probably my hands-down hardest one to pick. It's another one like 25 where I feel like you can't really go wrong with these top 4 or 5 seeds. I almost want to say at this point, the way Joey McKenna's wrestling, McKenna and Meredith are the 2 best guys in this weight, and I feel like that should be the NCAA final. But just going out on a limb here, I'm going to go with McKenna over Ironman in the finals. So just like 25, I'm going to pick the 2 opposite people that you picked, Mason.
Yeah, and this weight, there's no bad pick. I think all these guys are so freaking good, and they all present very unique challenges. Of those top 6 seeds, McKenna's really the only guy that's not a scrambly, can kind of pin you out of nowhere guy. That's Ironman, Diakopolis, Meredith, and Heil kind of to a T. Heil, not so much a pinner, but he's obviously a great scrambler.
Yeah, I just think Yanni's road might be, he's got to get through 2-time national champ Dean Heil, who hasn't had the same season he's used to, but that's still Dean Heil at the end of the day that Yanni's got to get through. Then he's got to get through Ironman just to get to the finals. So I'm going to go with Ironman in the finals, and I think McKenna, just the way he's wrestling right now, he pretty much looks unbeatable.
That's fair. I definitely don't hate that pick.
Yeah, let's go up to 49. We should be able to roll through this one pretty quick.
Kind of run a train through it because the Zane train, ranked number 1. So Rutherford draws Springer from Eastern Michigan. Orts from Clarion wrestles Matt Kolodzik, who's the 11 from Princeton. And then an all-PA first round. Number 15, Ronnie Perry wrestles Court Schuyler out of Lehigh. That actually might be my most interesting matchup in the first round at this.
That's what I had.
So that's going to be an interesting one between Ronnie Perry and Court Schuyler. Dark horse at this weight, I'm going Jared Prince out of Navy. He was a dude who took third at the.
You copying my pick?
Nah, man, great minds think alike. But you've got the thing that sucks for Prince is he draws into Brandon Sorensen right out of the chute, who's the 2 seed. Probably not going to beat Brandon Sorensen, but Prince is a bear, man. When he gets on the backside, he's really good on top. He's really good everywhere. I think that's a guy that could get rolling and all of a sudden be wrestling Friday night and Saturday morning after losing out of the chute. Then for finals picks, Zane over Sorensen. I don't feel the need to explain that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say let's slide right up to 157 because I'm echoing that exact same pick, and I echoed everything else that you said. So without further ado, 57 is a very interesting weight class, especially for Pennsylvania to talk about. 8 guys deep here. Starting the very first matchup right out of the chute here. Number 1 seed, undefeated redshirt freshman Hayden Hidley, NC State, taking on a 5th-year senior now, Garrett Hammond, out of Chambersburg, who's now at Drexel. Very interesting first-round matchup. We'll dive into that in a second. Ian Brown for Lehigh has number 5 seed, Alec Pantaleo from Michigan. Justin Staudenmeyer from Brown, who is another one of those guys, Mason, I feel like who's been around for 10 years. He's got number 13 seed Zilverberg from South Dakota State. Number 4 seed Josh Shields from Arizona State has Jake Short from Minnesota. Number 3 seed Jason Nolf from Penn State. That just sounds weird to say. Number 3 seed Jason Nolf has Colin Heffernan from Central Michigan. Number 6 seed Michael Kemmerer from Iowa has Coleman Hammond from Bakersfield. And lastly, Alex Clucker for Lock Haven has number 15 seed Van Schenkbrill, as he's now called, for Rutgers.
Van Schenkbrill. 57. So, most interesting first round matchup. There's some funky ones in here. D'Angelo Romani. D'Angelo's a 16. That could be an interesting one, especially because Romani, he's always close with everybody. Shields and Jake Short could be another very interesting match. Jake Short's a guy that's had an up-and-down career, but when he's been on, he's been awesome. I think that's one. But here's Alec Pantaleo is the 5 seed, and he draws a guy, unseeded guy that beat him in the dual meet this year, in Ian Brown. So that's intriguing just for the sake of, and obviously Pantaleo was kind of schizophrenic all year, man. Had some weird losses. I'm going Pantaleo Brown as my most intriguing first round matchup and Ian Brown's been a guy too that will beat somebody really, really good on a Friday and lose a head scratcher on Sunday. So those two guys both have a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde complex. That's my most intriguing first round matchup. Dark horse here. I'll go Justin Staudenmeyer. We'll go homer pick as a Pennsylvania guy.
All right, first round matchup I had most intriguing. Number 1 seed Hayden Hidley against Garrett Hammond. That's a 5th-year senior from PA, 2-time state champion and finalist against Hayden Hidley. Obviously, a stud, undefeated, number 1 as a redshirt freshman, a younger guy though. Obviously, these guys' careers are at different points. Hammond went to Penn State, banged up, transferred to Drexel, has had, I think, a couple surgeries. He's really kind of just sneaking into the top 20 now in his fifth year, senior year, now that he seems to be at least healthy enough that he's competing at a pretty high level. But I just think that's a very intriguing first-round matchup. You got two PA guys. You never know how the psychology plays into that. Hidley was a young guy whenever Hammond was out there beating my brother in the state finals. So, yeah, it's just interesting matchup there. Two PA guys, two very good PA guys, different points in their career. I think Hidley wins it, but I think Hammond could, keep that match tight, give him a good first round scare, perhaps. Aside from that, my dark horse was Garrett Hammond. I think he could make a run back in the contests, especially after even if he drops that first round to Hidley. And finals picks, go ahead, Mason. What do you got?
Finals picks, I'm going to go Hidley over a not fully healthy Jason Nolf.
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to go a not fully healthy Nolf over Hidley. But definitely got a lot of love for Hayden Hidley, so I really hope to see him in the finals. If he gets on the top of the podium, I'm not going to hate it.
No, definitely not. Got that pack mentality down there in North Carolina State.
Would love to see Hidley win a title as a freshman.
That would be awesome. And he'd be undefeated, so that'd be pretty cool. 165. Here's another weight that's kind of a train wreck as far as picking it goes. Pennsylvania natives, number 9, Chance Marsteller from Lock Haven. He wrestles Martin from Indiana. Tashan Campbell, wrestling at Ohio State. He wrestles Barnes from Oklahoma. Vincenzo Joseph, your defending national champ, wrestles Schleifer from Princeton. Most intriguing first-round matchup here. There's a lot of good ones. This is another super deep weight. I mean, Nick Wanzik's the 12, which is just absolutely outrageous because there's so many good guys here. Most intriguing first-round matchup, though, I think Connor Flynn from Missouri and Branson Ashworth out of Wyoming could be a really, really fun one. Connor Flynn's a kid that's had he's been pretty solid, and again, we've talked about Missouri already. They kind of fly under the radar because they haven't been in the national spotlight a whole lot. So Connor Flynn, Branson Ashworth could be a fun match, and Branson Ashworth is another example of kind of what Mark Branch and Ethan Kyle and those guys are doing out there at Wyoming. They're really building a pretty cool program. And, Branson Ashworth is a guy that's 34-4. Another one that I absolutely 100% promise you will be end-to-end action, and you're going to see positions that you never really thought you'd see in a wrestling match. Maybethay and Gordon Wolf is the pigtail. That match will be absolutely out of control. They've wrestled twice already this year, once at the All-Star Duel and once at EIWAs. And every time it happens, it's a complete train wreck, which tends to happen when Gordon's on the mat.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you with Connor Flynn. I had him listed as my dark horse. I'm pretty big on, Mizzou in general, being in their conference for, 3 or 4 years. They're just Tiger style. I believe in Tiger style. They're pretty darn good.
Hashtag Tiger style.
Those guys are always ready to compete. Yeah, they're always ready to compete, especially in the postseason. They're always tough. They're always strong. They're always good, fundamentally sound. And Flynn was absolutely dominating at the MAC at 165. So I had him picking off Ashworth in the first round as well. He's my dark horse. Finals picks. My goodness. Man. Such a tough pick. I'm really just gonna throw away all logic maybe here and just go out on a complete random limb. But this kid, for some reason, just impresses me every time I see him wrestle, every time I see, even if I don't watch him wrestle, every time I see the box score, he just seems like, his 31-0 record would indicate, even though he hasn't wrestled all these top guys, kid just seems like he just doesn't lose, even though he doesn't always look so flashy. I'm going David McFadden over Imar in the finals.
Real wow. Did not expect that. I'm going the more traditional route. I'm going Imar over Chenzo. It's just, this is the first year since his freshman year that Imar has really seemed like the very best version of himself. His freshman year, it really felt like he was really, really chasing something. And maybe getting beat last year, that edge is back. I don't know. He just seems like a different guy this season. So I'm going Imar. Chenzo on the bottom. I think him and McFadden is going to be a really interesting match. They're two very different guys. McFadden's a phenomenal scrambler. Chenzo just throws kitchen sinks left and right. Obviously, he's got a great double, great single and everything, but his upper body stuff is what people seem to point to with him. A matchup here. Also, my dark horse, I'm going Anthony Valencia out of the 15. That's a kid that when he's on is an absolute genetic freak. Another matchup that's going to be a lot of fun is the second round. You got Massa Wick as the 7 and 10. That'll be a great one. You got Richie Lewis and Isaiah White as the 6 and 11. That'll be a great match. So those on the bottom side of the bracket will be great matches. And then Chance Marshall or Chandler Rogers as a second round match, former Oklahoma State teammates. Little added layer there. That'll be a fun one. So, but to circle back around, I'm over Chenzo.
I'm just going to say, from looking at this bracket right now, a couple years ago when I was in college looking at my 165-pound NCAA bracket, thinking, when I had guys like Daringer in my bracket, I was sitting there thinking, like, this just isn't fair. Why do I have to wrestle in this bracket? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm glad I wrestled when I did and that I'm not still in college, because I would not be seeing my name next to a seed in this bracket. This is ridiculous.
It's insane. It's that weight's another one. It's probably 13 deep. I mean, really 13 deep. So, 74.
I mean, you got Valencia at 15, so yeah, it may be 15, 16 deep. But yeah, let's move up to 174.
Shelfstall from Edinburgh. He's going to wrestle number 8, Jadaine Bernstein of Navy out of the chute. And then Rose from Drexel wrestles number 2 seeded, which I've already made my thoughts on that note. Mark Hall, Penn State, defending national champ. So not great draws for the Pennsylvania guys.
Not a lot of PA representation in this weight class. We'll run through it fairly quickly. Interesting matchups here. I had, just kind of random things. Former All-American, returning All-American for Cornell, Brandon Womack, who's coming up a weight against number 6, Bo Jordan, right out of the gate. So that's 2 All-Americans in the round of 32. And then Bullard from NC State's always kind of a scary guy against number 14, Mejias from Oklahoma. Thought that was interesting. My dark horse is Joey Gunther from Iowa. Didn't really see anyone else who jumped out to me, but, Iowa guys just come to wrestle. I could see him picking off Smith from Oklahoma State in the first round and then making a little run through the consies. So that's really all I had for that weight.
Jacoby Smith is my dark horse out of the 13 for sure. Him and Cutler was a close match up at the Journeyman thing in the fall. Smith is got a lot of talent, kind of wrestles in spurts. So I think he's a guy that could cause people problems. Most interesting first-round matchup, I think Dylan Lighty and Johnny Sebastian. Lighty, the 15 out of Purdue. Sebastian, a guy that was all-world coming out of high school. He wrestles in Northwestern now. That could be a really interesting match. Other than that, to be honest, there aren't a ton of great first-round matchups at this weight. Now, as I say that, I'm sure a top 8 seed will go down and my foot will be implanted squarely in my mouth. But yeah, and then finals picks.
That's a big mouth too.
It is. Well, no, it's not a huge mouth. It just never stops. So I'm gonna go Zahid over Mark Hall. Zahid has just looked so good all season long. What he did to Cutler in the duel, what he's done to Bo Jordan twice, what he's done to Amin. He just looks to have jumped levels. Now, having said that, Mark Hall is the consummate winner. The kid has been amazing at all levels. I make this Zahid pick, having this creeping feeling in the back of my head that Mark Hall is going to beat him again. You know what I mean? And hey, look, he's wrestling for a Pennsylvania school, so if that happens, that's good for Pennsylvania wrestling. But I don't know. My head is telling me Zahid, from everything I've seen, but there's something in the back of my mind telling me Hall. But I'll stick with Zahid. I'll go with my head.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'll go Zahid over Hall as well. Like you said, if Hall does do it, great, because PA power. But I do want to say that Cutler Amin quarter will be great, and then Cutler Zahid semi is great also. But down the bottom half, 2 undefeated guys, Daniel Lewis from Missouri, someone that I feel like really has not been talked about this year. He's undefeated, like you said. Mizzou has kind of been out of the spotlight, so maybe that's why. But he's coming up a weight class, undefeated, been pretty much destroying people from what I've seen, at least, lately. Not saying he's going to beat Mark Hall, but he was beating Chenzo in the last 10 or 15 seconds of the, quarterfinals last year, I think it was. Maybe semis. I'm not sure. It's 65.
Quarters. Massa was the semi.
Yeah, massive semis. Okay, so he's a scary good guy. So him against Hall will definitely be intriguing, assuming he gets past Bo Jordan in the quarters.
Completely agreed. The Daniel Lewis Bo Jordan quarter is going to be. That's one of my favorite matchups of the entire tournament, to be honest with you. Obviously, if everything holds to chalk, which who knows, but so yeah, 74 it'll be a fun one. 184. This got some pretty good Pennsylvania talent here. Hazel from Lock Haven wrestles number 12. Carr from Tennessee Chattanooga. Number 4, Pete Renda, podcast guest, from North Carolina State, wrestles Keegan Moore from Oklahoma State. Number 3, Ryan Price, last week's podcast guest, out of Lehigh, wrestles Bolsack from Clarion. Those are 2 Pennsylvania guys going at it there. Tashanis from Drexel, he's wrestling number 11, Ricky Robertson from Wisconsin. By the way, Ricky Robertson sounds like a phenomenal NASCAR driver name. Then
He's also been around for a long time.
Yes. And then number 6, that's Zach Zavatsky from Virginia Tech, wrestles Coleman from Navy out of the chute. First round matchups that I think will be interesting here. Drew Foster, Cordell Norfleet. Foster the 8, Cordell Norfleet out of Arizona State. Norfleet's a guy that I think Foster wins this one, but I think it'll be a match where Foster kind of build a lead, or maybe Norfleet blows through him a couple times, gets a 4-1 lead, and Foster methodically works back, and Norfleet takes him off his feet again. You know what I mean? A match where Foster, a seasoned veteran, he's a returning All-American, right?
Yeah, and to me, the only thing that really matters for Drew Foster at NCAAs is if he wears the Jeff Gordon shirt again.
Did he wear
and
Crocs on the podium, right?
The Crocs on the podium would be a bonus as
right.
well. But really, if he wears the Jeff Gordon shirt, I'm rooting for the kid.
That's fair. I cannot argue with that logic. Dark horse at this weight, Nick Ravina, the 14 out of Rutgers. He's the same one whose shoulder pops out sometimes, and he just pops it back in and keeps wrestling. Arguably the most savage human in college wrestling, purely for that fact. These Rutgers guys are tough, man. I know I picked Del Vecchio as my dark horse down at 33. These Rutgers guys, they compete hard. They're hard to score on, and they're just good wrestlers. So I think Ravina as the 14 is a potential dark horse. Finals picks. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball in here, and I'm going to go Nickel over Price.
Could have seen that one coming from a mile away.
Right. So here's my reasoning. I've actually put a lot of thought into this one, and I genuinely don't say this because I'm hoping. I obviously am hoping Price wins that match. He's got to get there first and everything, but Price, we saw in his match with Nickel, as we've seen him do to a lot of other guys throughout his career so far. Price is such a powerful positional guy that he can kind of suck the life out of matches against somebody like Nickel that normally creates a ton of action, you know what I mean, and creates these flurries, and Price can kind of suck the life out of it and force you to wrestle his match. He's really, really good on top if he gets a boot in, and that's somewhere that we know Ohio State as a team has struggled is bottom. If he's able to get those double boots in, I'm not saying he's not going to do to Martin what he did to Max Dean in the EIWA finals, but Max Dean's the 9 seed. That kid's really good, and Price beat him like he stole something once he got on top of him. So I think that could be a great semi to watch. I'm going Nickel over Price.
I actually did think about making that pick myself. I really like Price. Him along with Emery Parker from Illinois, who's a 10 seed, who actually ironically beat Miles Martin in the round of 16 last year, are probably 2 of the toughest, best guys that I wrestled in my career that are still wrestling in this, in college wrestling now. Those guys were both just red shirts when I wrestled them. And they were both, I got off the mat thinking, these guys are going to be amazing. And sure enough, here they are. Could definitely see Price getting all the way to the finals. I'm just going to go with the traditional pick here, Bo over Miles Martin in the finals. But like I just said, Miles did get picked off in the round of 16 last year, and Price is definitely a guy that could do that. So would not be shocked if that happened.
Right. Okay, so not a total homer pick. At least other people are seeing my logic here, right?
Let's go to 97.
All right, run it down for us.
Number 12 seed Stephen Loiseau from, Lancaster Catholic, I think. He's at Drexel now. He's got pretty tough first-round matchup in Blood Rounder from a year ago. Danny Shade for UNC. Number 13 seed Jarrett Kasnick from American has another PA boy in Dustin Conti from Clarion. And then my dark horse of the weight, former member of the same club as me, despite being about, 7-8 years younger than me, Chris Weiler for Lehigh, taking on number 10 seed Scotty Boykin from UTC. And just looking at the bracket, that looks like one of those matchups where it's almost like I would almost say it's like a guarantee that it's going to be an upset there.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel, Mason.
97. Weiler was definitely the guy that intriguing first round matchup and potential dark horse. Weiler is such a scram. He had Darmstadt, who's the 2 seeds, ranked at the time was ranked number 1 in America. He had Darmstadt dead to rights at EIWAs.
That's what I'm saying, and I feel like people don't necessarily know that by looking at the score, but once you told me that, that made me even more of a believer in Weiler.
Yeah, so I think Chris Weiler, he's my dark horse. He's a guy that if he gets on top, he's a great tilter, and with the way the rules are now, that 4-point near fall, if he gets riding time with it, that's a 5-point move, and he's going to shorten the match. So all in one, intriguing matchup and dark horse, all in the Weiler-Boykin match with Chris Weiler being my dark horse. Finals picks.
Definitely one of the hardest ways to pick.
Yeah, because more you just don't know what dude's going to show up. But looking at the way this bracket will play out, I don't see him losing to anybody in that quarter. I think he's going to get either Shaq or Mock in the semis. Mock already beat him. But that's going to be a night weigh-in. Or that's going to be a night match, so he's not coming off a scale. I will go... Oh boy, this is actually really a difficult one for me. I don't have a clue what to do here.
It's really tough.
Screw it. I'll go Colin Moore over Jared Hott. It's kind of traditional, but I don't know.
That was going to be my pick as well. Like you said, that seems to be the traditional pick. I almost want to just change it just because you said that. I might go... I really kind of want to pick Miklas being in the finals out of the bottom. I did just see, just in the last 24 hours, he was granted a 6th year by the NCAA, so he will have another season next year. That's interesting. Must be, I don't know how that would play into your emotions going into the NCAA tournament, knowing that you now have another shot. Maybe take some pressure off you, if anything. So I'll go Colin Moore over Miklas in the finals.
That's fair. I also think, that Darmstadt kid too, he's such a unique style for a big guy. He's scrambly, super, super good on top. He's a pinner. I could see Darmstadt winning the whole freaking thing. I don't know, man.
I could too, honestly. It's just tough to pick. What is he? He's a freshman, right?
Right, but Cornell's got a
essentially
good. Well, I think he did the Ivy shirt thing, but
yeah.
Cornell's got a long history of those freshmen doing well.
Yeah, you're right. It's a tough pick. I'm gonna go with Miklas. I'm gonna go with Moore over Miklas.
All right, fair enough. Heavyweight, the big boys. Ryan Solomon out of Pitt. He draws Captain America, Kyle Snyder. Pelusi from F&M draws number 5, Sam Stoll out of Iowa. Boykin from NC State wrestles Hutchison from Eastern Michigan. Boykin's the 14. Jake Gunning out of Buffalo wrestles number 11. The mountain of a man that is Mike Hughes from Hofstra. Andrew Dunn out of Virginia Tech wrestles Desi, who's the 6 from Morgan State. Jordan Wood, the number 10 out of Lehigh, is wrestling Daniel from UNC. The number 15, Thomas Haynes, wrestles Conan Jennings from, or not, is it Conan Jennings from Northwestern?
Yeah.
Okay. So, interesting first round matchups here. I think Garrett Ryan, Tanner Hall will be a great match. Garrett Ryan was an EIWA champion last year. Took, I believe, 3rd this year. Lost to Wood in the semis to that tournament. Tanner Hall, a returning All-American, guy that's been a little bit of up and down. Has lost some ones that coming into the year I didn't necessarily expect him to lose. So I think that'll be a fun one to watch. Dark horse here, it's a little bit harder. I feel like heavyweight is normally goes more to chalk, but there's a super easy dark horse pick here, and it's Michael Boykin. He's got a potential round of 16 matchup with Nick Neville's, a guy that he beat at the scuffle. That draws him into, if it all holds the chalk, Amar Desi from Oregon State. I can extremely realistically see Michael Boykin being in the semis.
Wow. That's a PA pick too. I like it.
Right, but I mean, just looking at his road when it came out, I'm like, that's actually for a 14 seed, that is an awesome draw. So what do you got?
I mean, I don't know if Neville's is ever a formidable. Neville's is a pretty formidable opponent, but style-wise, yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's a matchup Boykin's already shown he can win.
Yeah. Only other matchup intriguing I had here was number 15, Thomas Haynes has Jennings from Northwestern, who was in the blood round last year, so that's kind of an interesting first-round matchup. As far as dark horses, I went with a MAC, Mid-American Conference homer pick here. Matt Stencil from Central Michigan. He's a guy, I think he racked up quite a few losses early in the year, but he's looked pretty tough. I think he pinned his way through the MAC, or pinned his guy in the finals at least. He's a pinner. So, as a 16 seed, obviously he's going to run into Snyder in the second round, but from then on, who knows, could catch some fire for a young guy, win some matches in the consolations. Finals pick, I'm going Snyder over Kuhn. That simple.
Yep, Snyder over Kuhn. I'm going Snyder over Kuhn 3-2. He'll get it done in regulation. I'm even giving a score on that one. But that's my pick at heavyweight. Should be a super fun match. And, no disrespect to anybody else in that weight. I just really want to see Snyder Kuhn one more time.
Yeah, I think everybody in America would agree.
Well, everybody in America that's not also in that bracket.
Yeah.
So, team race. Who you got winning the whole thing?
Penn State, can't pick against him. I think Nolf's good to go here. I think he wins the weight class. At the very worst, gets second. I got Zane winning it. I got possibly Nolf winning it. I got Nickel winning it. I got Chenzo. Even if he doesn't win it, I got him probably taking, third or fourth. Neville's taking third or fourth. Who did I feel like I forgot. Oh, Hall, second or first. So I'm going with the Nits.
I think just based on the picks I made, so say if Boykin wins that match against Neville's and Nolf gets beat, and maybe Nolf doesn't score as many bonus as normal, I'll go Ohio State just because for the sake of having conflict on the podcast and something to talk about in our recap next week, right?
Yeah, and I will say, now that I just said that, I do just realize that I picked Tomasello, McKenna, Moore, and Snyder to win it, so maybe I should take my pick back, but I'm just going with my heart on this pick.
That's fair. I mean, I openly do it, too.
I feel Ohio State could win, but I want Penn State to win, so that's what I'm going with. Hey, I thought Ohio State was going to win that dual meet, and look what happened, so you never know.
That's fair. That is very fair, and they did win Jason Nolfless. Penn State did.
Exactly.
So, just a couple other little tidbits here to throw in to this podcast before we get out of here and see everybody in the land. So, one thing, we're going to do a live show at the Winking Lizard in Cleveland. It's right next to the arena. That will be Friday at 3 p.m. If any of you listeners out there want to come join us, want to come, shoot the breeze with us, grab a beer, grab some food, ask questions, give us crap, whatever you want to do. But we'll be at the Winking Lizard on Friday at 3 p.m. So come check us out. If you see us running around this weekend, I'll be the short dude with the messed up left ear wearing a PA Power shirt. And if you're looking for me on Saturday, look for the gold Nike shoes. You can't miss them. Everybody makes comments about them. So
pretty hideous.
It's title day. You got to wear the gold shoes on title day. And for the record, they're not hideous. They're awesome. So bite your tongue, sir. But that's all I got. Thank you guys and girls for following along all season. It's been a ton of fun. Hopefully, PA shows out like we always do at the national tournament and displays what PA Power is all about. To everybody that showed love at the high school state tournament this weekend between AA and AAA, thank you. it truly is greatly appreciated that so many people follow along and have bought into what Jeff has built and what he's allowed the rest of us to help contribute to. So it's awesome to be part of this team. All the love at the Pennsylvania State Tournament and through social media was incredible. Thank you guys and girls. Look forward to seeing you in Cleveland, and we'll see you next week for our recap.
Yep, like Mason said, that's going to wrap it up for us at the PA Power College Podcast. Thanks again for dialing in. I'm Tristan Warner. Find me on Twitter at WarnTriz. You can find Mason on Twitter at Beck_Diggity. Visit PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at PAPowerWrestle and send us a friend request on Facebook. Till next time, stay classy, wrestling fans.